pronunciation and spelling of Chinese place names. Seriously. Very, very random thing. Right. Am I allowed to sit down? I can sit down. I can stay seated. Okay. Right. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So Brother Saddam has chosen Surat Al-Fatiha. Now, kind of just give me a second. To start off, I have to say this. Nothing I can say today, or in 1,000 halaqah done in the same setting and similar timing, could remotely even come close to skim the surface of understanding Surat Al-Fatiha because of how important it is, and because of how profound it is, and because of the elementary status that it holds in the faith itself and within the Qur'an. Meaning, there's a book called Madarij al-Salikin. You can look up Madarij al-Salikin, which is a book that was written by Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. And it's a large book, and it's Madarij al-Salikin fi manazili iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. So it's a book that's just focused on explaining that one ayah in Surah Al-Fatiha. And I'll begin by explaining to you what some of the scholars have said regarding the surah. They said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to the human race 114,000 books. He summarized all of them, or he put all of the info and all of the important topics. He put it in the 4 books: Torah, Zabur, Injil, and Qur'an. And then he summarized all those books, all 4 books, in the Qur'an itself. And the Qur'an sufficed for all of them. And then within the Qur'an, he summarized all the Qur'an in Surah Al-Fatiha, and they summarized Surah Al-Fatiha in Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. So the whole deen, in their understanding, is pretty much focused or rotates around that one verse within the middle of Surah Al-Fatiha. What is the surah called? It is called al-Kitab. It's called the mother of the book. And it's called al-Qur'an, the mother of the Qur'an. It's called the Sab' al-Mathani, which is an important one we talk about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِ وَالْقُرْآنَ الْعَظِيمِ. And we gave you 7 of the Mathani. So what does Mathani mean? The scholars have differed for centuries on what the word Mathani actually means. Mathani could mean that it's something that is repeated. يُثَنِّي بِهَا الْعَبْدِ. Meaning you repeat it every time you pray. So because it's repeated, the word Mathani. Another meaning for Mathani comes from the concept of istithna, meaning being exceptional. So sab'an min al-mathani means 7. And since there's 7 verses in Surah Al-Fatiha, and we're going to consider that the Basmala is the first ayah in Surah Al-Fatiha, even though some scholars in their Quranic scholars will not count Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim as an ayah, but they will count Sirat al-Ladina an'amta alayhim an ayah, and then Ghayr al-Maghdubi alayhim wal-Dallin an ayah. So it ends up 7 either way. So even if they don't necessarily consider the Basmala as an ayah of Surah Al-Fatiha, it still adds up to 7. But the stronger evidence and the more prominent position is that the Basmala itself is an ayah. So 7 Mathani means the 7 exceptional verses, or the 7 exceptional ayat of the Quran. How I view it, and this is something we can think about before we actually start to get into the meanings of the words. It's called Al-Fatiha, so the opening, right, or the opener, right. Another word that's taken from Al-Fatiha is the word Muftah, right, which is the key. Now, when you think about it, you're not allowed, from a religious perspective or from a prayer point of view, you're not allowed to read any surah in the Quran unless you read Surah Al-Fatiha first. Correct? Like when you think about it from a prayer perspective, you're not allowed to actually recite any of the words of the Quran unless you first recite Surah Al-Fatiha. So it's like the key that will allow you to read the rest of the Quran. Meaning, it is the umbrella that under its basic meanings, everything in the Quran is going to be understood. So you have basically a measurement tool. Every time you're reading a surah in the Quran, you're going to understand it based on the fundamental principles that Surah Al-Fatiha have already established. I mean, you're not allowed to understand the surah in independence of Surah Al-Fatiha. All the surah in the Quran are dependent on Surah Al-Fatiha, and that is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made practically true. He made it literally true by putting Surah Al-Fatiha at the beginning of the Quran, but He made it practically true by saying that you can't in your prayer read anything. You have to read Fatiha. There's going to be raka'at where you only read Al-Fatiha. He's not even requiring you to read anything else. If you were to read something else, it would be bid'ah. You'd be actually doing something that the Prophet ﷺ did not do, correct? Like in the second 2 rak'ah in all the four rak'ah prayers, you're not supposed to read anything but Fatiha. How many times you end up reading it a day? What's the number? What's the magic number? How many times, if you're a practicing Muslim, you have to read Surah Al-Fatiha every day? 17 times. That's because there's 17 rak'ah. You have to read 17 times a day. When you think about it, times 17 by the number of days you live with 30,000 days, you end up with a very, very large number of times that Surah Al-Fatiha has been recited. When was it revealed to the Prophet ﷺ? Do we know the timing? Anyone have an idea? When was it roughly revealed to the Prophet ﷺ? Was it an early surah? Was it a late surah? Was it a mid surah? Was it a Makki or a Madani? Surah Al-Fatiha is a Makki surah. It was the fifth so the latest is the fifth surah, meaning what was revealed to him ﷺ was Iqra, Al-Muddathir, Al-Muzammil, Al-Qalam, and then Surah Al-Fatiha. That is the latest we have. Meaning some scholars say it's even earlier than that. It's the second or third surah to be revealed. It's a very, very early surah. When the Prophet ﷺ in a hadith sahih talking on the Sahaba and told him, أُعَلِّمَنَّكَ أَعْظَمَ سُورَةٍ فِي الْقُرْآنِ, I'm going to teach you the greatest surah in the Qur'an. قَالَ فَعَلَّمَنِي الْفَاتِحَةِ, and then he taught me Surah Al-Fatiha. And that was the surah that he identified ﷺ as being the best surah in the Qur'an. Brother Salam had asked about the recitations of the Fatiha before we start talking about the actual meanings. Now, when it comes to learning the different qira'at and the different riwayat and different variations that exist within the riwayat, if I were to read Surah Al-Fatiha and all the different narrations, it would take around 15 minutes just to go through the whole thing. But what I will do is I will give you just a basic idea of how you can hear it, how it can be heard differently. So an example, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is completely, there's no difference of opinion there. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, the same. Now, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin is what the Qira'at Hafs and Asim goes. There's another way, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. And then a third way, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin, where it's idgham between the meme and the meme. And then Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim with a sad, which is how we recite it. Then Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim, and it's a sin instead of the sad. And then Ihdina az-Sirat al-Mustaqim, which is a sad mushamma sawt az-Zai, which is the khallaf an Hamza. And then صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So if you put them all together, actually that ayah at the end has at least 11 variations. So 11 ways to read it properly with changing the sad and changing the alayhim or alayhum or alayhimu, or depending on how you're going to look at it. So it actually takes some time, but there are different ways to read Surah Al-Fatiha. And it's one of the surahs that has the least variations in the Qur'an. Meaning if you were to find other surahs, you'll find way more variations in different surahs, even smaller ones that are similar to Surah Al-Fatiha in length at least. Alright, so what is the point of Surah Al-Fatiha? If you understand it as the opening or the key, then it must not have a simple or branched theme. Obviously, it can't have a theme that is something that will come later in the deen. It has to have something that is very, very holistic, something that is very, very generic, and it's not for it to actually serve its point. Well, Surah Al-Fatiha talks about three basic topics, right? It talks about the theology, it talks about the perspective, the understanding of the belief. It talks about the practice, and it talks about the attitude, or the way of life, which is basically everything that the deen encompasses in its essence. Meaning when you're becoming a Muslim, you're gaining basically three things. You're understanding who He is, who you are to Him, meaning what the relationship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, understanding the ideology, the theology. And then you're being told what the practice is going to look like, meaning what life is going to be based on, what is required of you in terms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's desires, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's satisfaction, and then how you're going to do it, or what steps you're going to take in doing that. If these three things are clear to you, then as a Muslim you're going to be fine. Some people say al-aqidah, so theology, and ibadah, which is worship, and then manhaj hayah, the way of life. Right? So, and these are the three mahawir of the Qur'an. I mean, the Qur'an, everything you study in the Qur'an will talk about one of those three things. There's really nothing outside of it. There's nothing out of those three basic mahawir or themes. In the terms of the Qur'an, it's not a book of science. It's a book of science. It's not a book of. It's not a geology book. It's not a geography book. It's a book that talks about individual and social development, improvement, spirituality, clarity, and functionality. This is what the Qur'an is here to do, and it talks about that in different, in different ways. So the three basic themes of the Qur'an is knowing who you are and who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, knowing what it is you're required to do, knowing how to do it, knowing the steps you're going to take in terms of actually achieving what He wants subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's take a look at it one by one. So the first, this is before we go into actually studying the ayat on an individual basis, even looking at each ayat alone. So we look at the first three, four ayat. So Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. The first four ayat, all they do really is just tell you who it is you're speaking to, who it is that you believe in, what attributes He has, what relationship you have with Him. It just talks about the theology. It's explaining to you who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and what relationship you have with Him. So the first four ayat are just theology. If you look at them, they have nothing. There's nothing here that resembles any ruling. There are no commands. There's nothing. It's just talks about the concept of praise. Talks about the concept of mercy. It talks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sovereignty. It's just defining for you, or you yourself are defining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what you believe. You see, we read this every single day a numerous number of times, to the point where we're not even allowed to stand up in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without actually starting with this. So even forget about the fact that you can't read a surah of the Qur'an without reading that first. You are also not allowed to pray without saying that first. It's a rukn. If you end up not reading Surat Al-Fatiha in a rak'ah, that rak'ah doesn't count. You have to do the rak'ah all over again. When you think about it, it's the first movement within a rak'ah. You start by qiyam. Now what comes later is ruku' and rafi' and sujood. So all these movements that within them, some of them benefit you, some of them benefit, not benefit Allah. Some of them are focused on the relationship with Allah, but there are different things you're going to do. However, you can't do any of these things unless you stand and you read Al-Fatiha first. And if you fail to read Al-Fatiha, everything to come after that is going to be useless. And it's saying the idea there's a lot of symbolism here that needs to be seen and need to be taken in account for. Meaning you're not allowed, you can't. Don't make dua, don't make istighfar, don't do tasbih, don't do hamd, don't do shukr, don't do anything unless you read Surah Al-Fatiha. Why? Because this is the definition. You're defining clearly what is it that you believe in, what is it that you're doing, and how you're doing it. And if this is not something that is agreed upon, meaning you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala don't agree on this, He sent this to you and you memorized it and you're going to say it back to Him. Imagine yourself as if you're a student in a classroom, the teacher gives you a lesson and requires you to memorize that lesson. The next time, stand up, read back the lesson. You didn't read, sit down, you get an F, and you're not going to be able to do whatever it is. Then you're not going to move on to the next lesson. You're not going to learn anything. Go back and memorize that lesson again. It's very simple. The same thing here. Here's Surah Al-Fatiha. I know it. Do you know it? Yes. Prove it. Read it to me, please. Okay, good. Then go on. So it's without saying it's the exact same thing, but it's the same basic concept. You're not allowed to speak or say anything unless first of all you remind yourself of this. It's not the importance here, so don't move. Don't stand right there. You know Fatiha. Yes, read it first. Not just reading it as in say the words. No, do you agree everything in it? Yes? Go on. Fadl. It's like the key in. I want to get in. Okay, Fatiha. And then Fadl. Ahlan wa sahlan. Now we can talk. If you agree to these basic concepts. So, what I'm trying to say is that the concepts that we're going to find in Surah Al-Fatiha are not just regular or normal or general Islamic concepts. No, these are the basics. These things, if you knew nothing else of Islam but Surah Al-Fatiha, you would be good. You would be capable of practicing. You would be capable of. Can you pray? Yes. For the Jumhur of Ulama, if all you know is Surah Al-Fatiha, you can pray, because you could easily make the movements and say nothing in them, and still your prayer would be acceptable for the Jumhur. Like for the prominent position amongst the majority of scholars, if you make ruku' and rafi' and sujood, say nothing in it, nothing at all, not forgetting, just purposefully, you don't want to say anything, your prayer will be acceptable as long as you said Surah Al-Fatiha at the beginning. So basically, Surah Al-Fatiha gives you enough to be able to do the basic ritual, or the main and the ritual, which is salah. You don't need anything else besides it. So that's the first four ayah. The fifth ayah, which is if every surah has a theme, then there are thematic verses within those surahs. And if you learn to see them, then things will start to light up in the Qur'an and you'll start to see it in color. You can understand that there are thematic verses, there are these anchor ayat in each surah, that the whole surah is kind of rotating around. Everyone is circumambulating around this one ayat. Ayat before it are preparing for it, the ayat after it are commenting on it. And if you can see, the big surahs have multiple anchor verses in them. And the smaller surahs have maybe one. Now this is a small surah, it has one anchor ayah. Take a good look at it. Right there, number 5. That is the basic ayah. Everything circulates around that 5th ayah. And that is why I started out by telling you what the scholars said about regarding the different books of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It all comes back to this. Religions aren't supposed to be complicated. They're not supposed to be complicated by default. They're supposed to be clear. There's supposed to be a certain level of simplicity that comes regarding faith and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not supposed to be confused. You shouldn't feel stressed and not knowing what to do next. It should be quite easy and quite straightforward. And you're looking at the basic, the whole story. So the whole universe is kind of encompassed in those little, in those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words at tops. And that is the word. That is the relationship. So if the first one is the theology, the aqidah, the belief, meaning the perspective and the understanding. This is the practice. This is the worship. This is the acts of practice. And then after that is the way of life. This is how we do it. This is what we're going to do, and it's going to have a dua in it, and that's going to kind of define the whole way of looking at it. So this is the simple breakdown of Surat Al-Fatiha. Everything in the Qur'an basically just explains these 3 themes. Everything that comes later in the Qur'an is the effort. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the other words of the Qur'an or the other surah just trying to explain this stuff. And if you understand this, then you understand the deen. You understand how you're supposed to function. There's just details that this surah doesn't carry, that other surahs will carry. But it all comes back to this. Meaning all the surahs are attached to Surah Al-Fatiha. Again, how? Well, again, you can't read a surah unless you read Surah Al-Fatiha first. There's an attachment always. There's always going to be an attachment. You read Surah Al-Fatiha, and you go ahead and you break Tarawih, you do a 600 rak'ah a month. You have to read Fatiha every single time. Every time, 600 times, you have to read Surah Al-Fatiha. You would think that maybe after the first 200 times, you're good to just start with the surah. No, read Fatiha every time. There's a connection with every surah, with Surah Al-Fatiha. Every verses in the Qur'an are connected. Why? Because the verses are going to be doing one of the 3 things. Either telling you your theology, what you believe in, either telling you how to practice and how to, telling you your worship and your duties, or it's telling you how to do it. One of these 3 things. There's really nothing else that the Qur'an carries within its book. Okay, so now let's move on to the to actually talking about the tafsir of the surah. All right. So the first ayah, I think that's enough for as far as commentary. The first ayah is Bismillah. So what does Bismi mean? Bismi means in the name of. Ism is the name. Bismi, in the name. So Bismillah, in the name of Allah. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. There's a difference between Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and it's pretty well translated here. So Ar-Rahman is the entirely merciful, and Ar-Rahim is the especially merciful. Meaning what? Ar-Rahman is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that explains that He is merciful towards everything that He created, and everything that is not Him. So everything that is not God, He is merciful towards, a general level of mercy that is encompassed in the word of Rahman. That's why Quraysh hated the name. Quraysh hated this name. They hated it with a vengeance because it was such a beautiful name. Because it was a name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Arabs did not use before. That this word, actually the word Rahman is derived from the concept of mercy, but this derivative was never used before. Do I understand what I'm saying here? So how Arabic language works is that you have a root of 3 letters or 4. Mostly 99% is 3 letters. Those 3 letters, you can derive all these other words from it. Right? Fa'ala, fa'il, maf'ul, fa'il, fa'al, fa'ul, fa'al, whatever, all these different derivatives. So Rahim, Ra, Ha, Mim, you can derive all these things. Rahman wasn't one of the words that Arabs ever used. And it was the name that the Qur'an kind of coined. It was a phrase that the Qur'an came up with that they never heard before. And then when people understood what it meant, the beauty of it, people gravitated towards it. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is by default, by nature, with His choice, of course, is Rahman. He is merciful towards everything, right? And that's why they hated the name and they fought it. That's why they started to say that that Muhammad was being taught by a foreign man named Rahman. And they made this rumor, and they said this guy lives somewhere like towards Persia or Persian or Roman Empire, I can't remember. But somewhere there, he's going, and he's learning from some guy called Rahman, and he's telling him what to do. Because they hated the word Rahman, they wanted to taint it, they wanted to stain it and kind of get people to not to gravitate towards it as much. Because it's such a beautiful concept. Al-Rahim, however, is especially merciful, meaning that He is merciful towards those who desire His mercy. And those who are actually looking for it, those who want it, those who are who believe in Him and are hoping to gain it in one point. وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا, right? In the Qur'an it talks about He is Rahim bil-mu'mineen, with those who believe. So He's Rahman for both the mu'min and the kafir, those who love Him and hate Him, those who believe in Him and do not. And He's Rahim specifically to those who actually want His mercy. Right? Now, this is all clear to you. But this is not the point of the ayah. This is where something we don't. So, I want you to think about this again. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. Is that a sentence? From an English perspective, is that a sentence? What's missing? From an English perspective, what's missing here? Yeah, what? In the name of Allah, what? Like if you came to someone and say, in the name of, in the name of my father, my mother, my family, and you sit there. The person in front of you is okay. I have somewhere to go. Can you please explain what is it that you have to say in the name of what? What is it? So we say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Everything. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You read. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You live. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You make every step. So there's something missing here that is estimated, that is understood, that you have to have the comprehension of. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is not a full sentence in the Arabic language. It doesn't mean anything unless there's something after it. There's the verb, or there's something that's going to happen next. If there's nothing, then and alhamdu, like the word after, is not the answer for it. So you can't. It doesn't work like that. In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, all praise is due to. No, that's not. No, that doesn't work. You know, in the name of Allah, all praise due to Him. In the name of Allah, what are you doing? Well, in the name of Allah, I begin. I live. I take my first step, I move forward, I read, I practice Islam, I accept, I think. And you're saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is a statement that you are going to continue. It's the idea. Whatever you do on earth, you're doing it in His name. So watch out for what you're doing, because you're doing it in His name. If you're doing it in His name, then He will ask you about it later. If you have a very powerful, parents, let's say your father is a big politician, and you walk around and you say, I'm doing this in the name of my dad. My dad wants me to do this. So he told me, or he sent me to do this, so he asked me to do that. You're doing it in His name. If you mess up, then you're going to have to answer to Him. He'll be very, very angry if you said something in His name that He did not agree to. Or if you attended a gathering that He did not want you to attend. Or if you gave money that He didn't authorize you to give. Or if you gave an opinion that He didn't want. Anything at all, you have to answer to Him. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is how we begin everything as Muslims. Everything is done in His name. Everything you do, understand that you're doing it in His name. Thus, He will call you back Yawm al-Qiyamah and then ask you, you did this in my name, did you? Well, I didn't authorize that at all. I didn't say that was okay. Where did you see me saying that was okay? How did you come to the conclusion that I wanted that to happen? You didn't do it. And if you don't do it in my name, then you do it on your own. Then you get no reward for it, and the only potential is punishment. Understanding the problem? Like if you don't do it in His name, you say, I'm not doing it for you, I never did it for you. Okay, so it wasn't a part of my agenda. No, it wasn't. Okay, so you did it on your own? Right. So the only potential here is punishment. There's no potential for reward, obviously, because you didn't do it in His name, so you can't get rewarded by Him. And you're saying that the concept, if you didn't do it for Him, why would you ask for reward? It makes zero sense. You don't do a job for someone without at least telling them that you're doing the job for them and making sure they wanted the job to be done in the first place. Or else it's very weird. You have someone knock on the door and say, yeah, today I walked around telling people how great you are, $50. I didn't ask you. I don't want you to do that. But and even if I did want you to do that, I didn't ask you, so I don't owe you anything. Correct? There's no binding contract legally here from a legal perspective. The same thing goes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you don't do things in His name, then it doesn't really matter. You're not getting rewarded. All that is left is maybe the potential of punishment. Maybe you did something He didn't want you to do. And then you have to answer for that, and that's a whole different ballgame. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim at the beginning of the Qur'an, which will later become the beginning, and the way I understand it, and this is how I understand, is that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is the first part of the Fatiha, and every surah has a representative of the Fatiha at the beginning of it. Right? So there's a representation of the Fatiha at the beginning of every surah. So you find Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim everywhere. Why? Because it represents the Fatiha. Just to remind you that this is under the supervision of Surah Al-Fatiha. It's under the supervision of what Surah Al-Fatiha is going to look like. Doesn't mean that Surah Al-Tawbah is not, because it doesn't have it at the beginning of it. What it means that it has a narrative that sound a bit different at the beginning. And that just makes you more interested and more inclined to understand what Surah Al-Tawbah is talking about. It just makes you a bit more interested. So, okay, what is Surah Al-Tawbah looking at? That caused Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim not to come at the first few ayat, because the first few ayat were so powerful and so difficult that it wasn't the right place for Surah Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim to be at the beginning of it. But the concept of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is that in the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful, you what? And that's your choice. From that moment on, it's up to you. And that's what Surah Al-Fatiha tells you. Okay, in the name of Allah, you're going to do these three things. You're going to believe in Him, you're going to worship Him, and you're going to live in the following way. and everything after that. And when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, yes, I eat if you're going to start eating. It's not just the code that we have to say before food. Everything you do, you're doing it in His name. So make sure you do it well. Make sure you do it to the way He wants you to do it. Make sure you're observing His laws and His rulings, subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you do it. And if you are not, then there is no potential for reward. There's only potential for punishment. So that's the first ayah in the surah. And everything in the Qur'an falls under that. And everything in the Qur'an is under that, very simply. We are here in His name. That's all it is. We're just representing Him. Trying to do our best to represent Him. Trying to represent Him in a way that He would be happy with on the Day of Judgment. Okay, the second ayah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So from an Arabic perspective, alhamdu is a mubtada, right? It's the beginning of a sentence. And every mubtada in the Arabic language is going to need a khabar. It's going to need something after it. So Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen is also an incomplete sentence in the Arabic language. So now we have two incomplete sentences so far. So Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, that is all one sentence. This is one sentence. It's three ayah, but it's one sentence. And it's an incomplete one sentence. Means also something that is estimated. So if Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wasn't enough, that there was an estimation that you had to make, that you had to understand, that you are saying, in the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, especially merciful, I am going to begin my life, I'm going to begin practicing, I'm going to begin living in a certain way, believing in a certain fashion. Here, the same thing. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Some people say, some scholars say that Alhamdu is a mubtada and the khabar is estimated as in all praise, or Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ka'inun, meaning it is there, it has always been there. And some people see Alhamdu as the khabar, meaning as information for a mubtada that is being estimated or is being deleted, which is al-aslu, meaning the origin of everything, or the opinion on everything, right? or the basis for everything is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Meaning the way I deal with everything, the way I see everything, the way I move forward in my life with everything is under the concept of Alhamdu. And that is on its own, of course, it's understanding the concept of Alhamd in Islam is one of the fundamental principles of the Islamic perspective of life. What does it bring? It brings optimism. It brings optimism. Meaning, you know that when you praise and you attribute to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala what He's done, what He is doing, you hope for more to come from Him. Because He is capable of all. And if He did this, then He'll do more. So it brings a concept of optimism. It gives a reality check that continuously exists in all of our hearts and minds. Understanding that what comes from khair, any good thing that is to happen, is attributed specifically to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though you tried to do it, you participated in it, you planned it out, you did your best to achieve it, but it is still attributed to Him. It's still His, the ownership of it is turned back to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not to you. So you gain this level of humbleness and humility in your heart that will allow you to continue to try and do better and to improve yourself. You see, praise is a very specific or a very delicate concept. When we're supposed to thank those who do good things to us. And shukr man lam yashkur an-nas lam yashkur Allah, right? If you don't thank people, you don't thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, clearly. But praise is a different thing. Praise is saying that you are, as a being, you are excellent because of what happened, or because of something going on. And that's a whole different judgment. That's a very different way of looking at things. Thanking you for something you did for me, that's fine. You did it for me, so I thank you for it. And in that concept, everything is pretty clear. But praise is different. You did something. Now I'm going to give a testimony on you. I mean, I'm going to say that you are excellent as a person. I'm going to say, as a being, you are great. Why? Because of this. I don't get to do that. I can't do that for you, and I can't do that for me, and no one can do that for anyone. No one. The only one who judges if you are good and if you are not, if you are bad, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The judgment goes back to Him. That's why He's the only one worthy of praise to begin with. He's the only one that you can fully praise. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because He is Al-Hamid. Because one of His names is Al-Hamid. He is the praised one. And we are, however, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't praise yourselves. Don't attribute greatness to yourselves. No, don't do that. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do that for you. He will tell you who did well and who didn't in a different appointment. There will be a different time when that will be well established. If you did well, if you are excellent as a being, if you are full of khair, or if you are not. The concept within the deen is al-hamd. What does al-hamd help us do? Al-hamd helps us build. The concept, the more we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the great things we do, for the great things that we are given or we achieve in our lives, meaning what we're saying is that He gave us this, now we move on to the next thing that He is going to give us. He allowed us to achieve this, then we move on to the next thing that He's going to allow to achieve us, for us to achieve, and we move in our lives with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fueling our movement. I mean, every step that we take, we pass, we succeed, we praise Him, we turn to Him, alhamdulillah, and we move on to the next. If we don't succeed, then we turn to ourselves. We must have done something wrong. We try again. We try again until it happens. Once it happens, alhamdulillah, and we move on to the next to the next part that you have. The concept of alhamd is one that brings optimism within a community. That you always see the bright sides of it. There's always something to do with alhamd. Now again, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen is not a complete sentence. Another way of completing it is that that alhamd is for what? For what are you doing hamd? Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim maliki yawmiddin. For what are you praising? Just like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah you're doing what? Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, for what? We don't know. There's nothing really there. For everything. Or for whatever it is that you choose. Or for whatever it is that you're trying to do or you've already done. Anything that you have been given or you've achieved. So alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, even the context of the sentence is left up for you to finish. Meaning you come up with alhamdu for what? Is it for the deen? Is it for your health? Is it for where you are in your life? It doesn't matter. It's for everything. So the concept of hamd gives you that understanding that everything you have, so optimistic people who believe in optimism say will only see the full half, right? And those who are pessimistic will only see the empty half. Muslims see both. So Muslim, I think, is kind of unique in the way they look at things. They don't see just the empty half or the full half. They see both halves. The half that is full, they praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. And the half that is empty, they continue to work to fill it up, and once they fill it, they praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it, and that's how they go forward. So it's not a matter of just seeing something and that is the reality of it. No, it's seeing the reality and then attributing the reality that is khayr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and attributing what is not to the shortcomings of ourselves and continuing to work towards achieving it, and the ones to achieve it, and the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends up happening. So alhamdulillah, the ayah can mean multiple things. The two basic things I think you should think about is that the origin of everything, or the basis for everything and for perspectives in the deen, is alhamdu, that we praise Him for everything. Another way of looking at it is you're praising Him for what? Alhamdulillah for what? And then it's left open. Meaning you fill in the blank, whatever you want. There should be something in your life that you're able to see as in worthy of praise. Now, so that's the concept of alhamd. Now, Rabbil Alameen, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, opened with two verses. The first one saying that everything you do, you'll do in His name, right? And it said that He is the Lord of everything. Al-Alameen in Arabic is everything that is not God. Al-Alameen, what it means, everything that isn't God. So everything basically that ever created, everything that He created is called Al-Alameen. So everything excluding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's Allah, Alameen, that's everything. You've left out nothing. So having the word Allah in one sentence, Al-Alameen in the other, in the same, then you've encompassed everything in one ayah. Because everything is there now. There's nothing that is outside of those two groups. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a deity, and Al-Alameen, everything. Which makes it very unique. That He is the Lord. Rabb is another. So if Ar-Rahman is the entirely merciful, and Rahim is the especially merciful, well, Rabb is another name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is based on mercy. Rabb means He who cares for, or the caregiver, or the caretaker. When we talk about raising children in Arabic, we say tarbiyah, or rabba, and from that word comes the concept of Rabb. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbuna, what does it mean? Our Lord? I find the word Lord to be very, I don't know, I don't understand what it means in English very clearly to be able to use it, but they use it commonly. But the word Lord doesn't make too much sense to me, because the word Rabb actually means the caregiver, the one who cares for, the one who watches over, the one who actually takes care of everything. So Rabbil Alameen, the caregiver of all worlds. And the fact that Islam is universal is stated within the first ayah, or second ayah of Surat Al-Fatiha. That this is for everyone, for Alameen, for everything. Everything that this comes in contact to that has ability to understand it, then this is for it. Because we praise Allah, Rabbil Alameen, right? So it's universal right off the bat. Everyone is a part of this. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So alhamdu, all praise is due to Allah, the caregiver of all worlds. Ar-Rahman, so this is all one sentence. Ar-Rahman, the entirely merciful. Ar-Rahim, the especially merciful. Maliki Yawmiddin, the owner or the sovereign of the day of Yawmiddin. The word deen, so in Arabic, if I want to say that there's something I believe in or something that I live by, I say ana adinu bihada li fulan. Or if I owe someone, I say adinu bihi, means something that I owe him. Ana adinu lillahi means that I live by this. This is what I live by. This is my code. The word deen in essence is the code. How do you live? What are the values that dictate the way you're going to behave in your life? That is what the deen is. So Yawm al-Din, the day when that is held accountable for. Meaning the day that the deen, the day that everything that was worthy of living for, the day that code, everyone's going to be held to it. Okay, here's the code, here's the deen, and then we're going to see who achieved the criteria in order to actually make it to the next step and who didn't. So Yawm al-Din is very specific. Using the word deen here is very important. Of course, it's Yawm al-Qiyamah. We all understand that there's a lot of different names for Yawm al-Qiyamah. But the fact that he used Yawm al-Din tells us that what's coming is talking about the practice. It's talking about the way of life. Because a deen, in its essence, as a word in the Arabic language, what it means is it means a way of life. It means a code. It's how you're going. It's how you view things. What are the rules that dictate the way you move within your life? What's interesting here is that you have out of four ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used how many of his names? Count them, how many names? No, think. So Ismuhullah is there, right? There's Ar-Rahman, there's Ar-Rahim, there's Malik or Malik, so if you understand it as the sovereign or the king, and the qira'ah is Malik, so the king or the sovereign or the owner, and Rabb, right? So how many names altogether? There's 5 names, right? Within 4 ayat, there's 5 names. Now let's take a look at those names. If you want to kind of cut them down to what categories they belong to. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the name of the that. So it's the name of the that means the name of the essence, and there's no category for it to fall under. Or if it's going to fall under a category, it's going to fall under uluhiyah, because it's derived from the concept of ilah, the one who is going to be worshipped. When we talk about the names of strength or the names of jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's only one name here, which is Malik, the owner, the king. And then the other 3 names, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Ar-Rabb, are all names of mercy. And Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim is, when you look at it, is repeated twice, right? You could have easily not repeated it twice here. Easily, you wouldn't, I mean, if you took out the second one, then not much would have changed. Correct? Don't you agree? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, maliki yawmiddin. The point has been achieved. You've already established that he is ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, yet is going to be repeated twice. Twice, the same 2 words are going to come together. Why? This is the basis of the relationship that you have with God. The relationship with God is based on this. This is what it is. It's ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Either you are worthy of the general act of mercy that comes from him, or you are worthy of the special mercy. He bases on the rububiyyah. He's basing on the fact that he is the caregiver of you. Sometimes I always thought, why didn't Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim be a bit more balanced? Right? Could be Bismillah ar-Rahman al-Muntaqim. That way, it's a tistahi. If you're good, then ar-Rahman works for you. And if you're not tistahi, then al-Muntaqim is there to make sure that you do. Right? Or Bismillahi al-Jabbar al-Rahim. That way, if you're a good person, Rahim works for you. And if you're not a good person, then Jabbar is there to scare you and make sure that the balance could be there, right? Well, doesn't that make more sense to us anyway? For it to be like that, there's some balance in the opening ayat, or even in the opening surah. Maybe the second one, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maybe one of them be a bit more balanced, kind of give, because when you think of there's only 5, only one of them has any jalal or any strength, a name of strength, which is Malik, and it's not even one of those scary ones. It's more of just the reality. The reality of our relationship with him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that he is the king and he is the owner, and that we are just a part of his kingdom. Understanding that is that not essential in the deen? Of course it is. One of the most important points, understanding. And when you think about it, look at the synergy between the beginning of the Qur'an and the end of the Qur'an. What does the end of the Qur'an have in it? What does the last surah have in it? It has al-Alameen here. Go to the end of the Qur'an. Surat Al-Nas. Correct? It has Ilahi Nas, there, Lillahi. It has Malik Nas, there's Maliki Yawmiddin again. Right? So there's synergy even between the first beginning and the end of the Mus'haf. There's like when you look at them, it's kind of bringing everything back to the same concept again, the universality of it, and the relationship, the nature of the relationship. The nature of the relationship in its essence is not based on punishments. The point of us coming here, the point of us creating us, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not that He seeks to punish, and that no. The basis is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, that He is entirely merciful, especially merciful. That He is the caregiver of everything that exists, and the merciful, entirely and specifically. So twice in one surah, so that there will be no confusion whatsoever. That there will be no way for you to ever oversee or forget or fall short of understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and this is the basis of the relationship that we have with Him. The reality of it is Maliki Yawmiddin. This is the reality. He is the owner. And He owns us. Think about that for a moment. It sounds weird in a 21st century Western context. You just say the word. He owns. Yes, He does. Think about it for a moment. We are owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you own anything that makes you you? Nothing. You don't even own your spirit. You don't own your body, obviously. That's owned by earth. I'm going to go back to it quite soon. Then what's left? The spirit is His. So what exactly is yours? What is yours that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't own? I'm not saying that there's the co-ownership here. No. Something that is not His, all His. He can do whatever He wants with it. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot, by nature of the concept, He cannot oppress anyone. Why? How do you oppress things that are owned by you that have no rights? What rights do you have in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, really? If everything that made you is His. You see, when the human rights is based on the fact that I don't own you, you don't own me. There are things that are completely different from one another. We have to respect these differences. That's why we have to behave in a certain way. But what is it that you own that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not? What can you say? But this is mine, you can't touch this. This is mine. Nothing. All you have is His word. Is His word, that's all. This word here. That's why you study this. All you have is this. This is all you've got. He held Himself to this, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He sent this, and this is what it says. So that later on, always talk to me through this, please. Talk to me to Bismillahi Hamdu. Talk to me about the fact that you live in my name and behave in my name. Talk to the fact that all praise is due to Him. Everything He does, subhanahu wa ta'ala, the praise is due to Him. Everything that is, the praise is due to Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being the caregiver of everyone and everything. Being the most merciful, entirely merciful, specifically merciful. Being the owner of everything on the day of judgment, in the day where the code is brought back. We're all brought back to be held to the code that He gave. Simple as that. It's very simple. But this is what we're being held to. And this is what we're being asked to understand. Surat Al-Fatiha, this is the first third is a theology. It's quite simple. This is what we believe. This is your perspective. You're a Muslim. This is how you understand things. You know He's the caregiver. You know He's the caregiver for everything. This is for everyone. You understand that it's based on mercy, and you understand it's based on ownership as well. That there's nowhere for you to go, that you really have no right to ask for anything Yawm al-Qiyamah. Oppression, the definition of oppression is me taking something that's not mine, putting it in a place where it's not supposed to be. This is supposed to be here. If I take it and I put it in my house, that's oppression. It's a form of oppression because it doesn't belong there. It belongs here. I don't own it. But if this was mine, I could put it anywhere I wanted. Anywhere I wanted. I made it from scratch. Now, do you own your kids? No, you don't own your kids. You don't own them. Allah owns them, subhanahu wa ta'ala. You were given them. It's a gift. It's a hadiyah. Here, take care of these ones. You don't own them. Even though sometimes that's how we think about it. It's not ownership. That's why they have rights. That's why you can't take them and put them in the middle of the street and have a car. No, it doesn't work like that. You don't own them. But this is mine. I do whatever I want. If I made this from nothing, but I don't even own this, do I? I don't own it. Because even the elements that made it weren't mine. Were His. I use the elements He made. They're not really mine. In order for it to be totally mine, I would have to actually create from nothing the elements that would make it, and then I do whatever I want with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything from nothing. So it's all owned by Him. So when you think about it, what exactly can we ask Him for, Yawm al-Qiyamah? Just go back to this. This is like the retreat point. This retreat, Surat Al-Fatiha. Take a step back. Surat Al-Fatiha makes you feel comfortable. Because He said this. He said all this. Okay, good. He reminds you, Maliki Yawmiddin. He owns it all. But He's a Rahman Rahim. Once, no, twice. Twice so that you're totally comfortable, just in case it becomes more overwhelming. Just in case the balance becomes scary to you. Because it could be scary to me. If He said Rahman Rahim once, then Maliki Yawmiddin another time, that the balance, I don't know what I'm doing. But no, Rahman Rahim twice. And Rabbi. Al-Alameen, for everyone. So now it's very comfortable. Now this side of the scale is filled with all the mercy you can imagine. All the caregiving that you could possibly imagine for everything. And then Maliki just once, and it's still scary enough. Because we have no huquq yawm al-qiyamah. But this is the theology, and this is what we believe. And this is how we view him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the basis of the relationship. It's very simple. It's very simple, and the more you understand it, the more capable you are of practice. Alright, moving on to the thematic, most important ayah in the whole surah. No, this is the most important ayah in the whole Qur'an. No, this is the most important ayah in all the books that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever sent. In all the books that were ever sent, from the beginning of time, all 114,000 of them, there's this. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. إِيَّاكَ in Arabic. Okay, so if I were to say in Arabic, I worship someone, I would say, or we worship someone. You want to say that in Arabic as a verb, all of us collectively. Then you would say, نَعْبُدُكَ. Right? You say, نَعْبُدُكَ. But if I wanted to flip it, I wanted to take that kaf at the end of it, we worship you, and I wanted to put it at the beginning of the sentence, right? I wouldn't say ka na'budu. That's ridiculous. It's not how you speak in Arabic. You have to use something called iya. Iya comes in to to give it a meaning. But why would you do that? What would the point of that be? Why would you say you whom I worship? And you whom why would you say that? What's the point? Just say I worship you, I seek aid in you. Why would I use iyyaka? So in Arabic, whenever you flip around any element of the sentence, when you change it around a bit, the point of doing that is that it gives a different meaning, and you change the meaning of the sentence. So na'buduka, what it would mean, is that we worship you, but not necessarily that we don't worship anyone else. If I say na'buduka, and we worship you, you could also be worshiping others as well. I just didn't disclose that information right now. What I'm telling you is we worship you. I didn't tell you if maybe I'm doing something else. Right? So if you ask your husband, tazawwajtani or iyaya tazawwajta, it makes a difference. At least for one of the teachers. So tazawwajtani means you married me, but not necessarily that's no one else. Iyaya, that means it's only me. Iyyaka na'budu means only you. There's exclusivity in it. It's exclusive. It means only you whom we worship. There's no one else. There's no one else. If you said na'buduka, then if the ayah was na'buduka wa nasta'inuk, and we say that in if you've ever been to a khatam Qur'an at the end of Taraweeh in Ramadan, when they make so Allahumma inna nahmaduka wa nasta'inuka wa nastahdik. So he actually say it in that form because it's a dua. You can say however you want, but this as being the anthem of the faith altogether. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Two things. What's the difference between ibadah and isti'anah? If you understand this, you'll understand the deen, and you'll be very, very comfortable in practicing Islam for the rest of your life. Iyyaka na'budu, you and only you whom we worship, and you and only you whom we seek aid from. So what is the difference? Which one, if I'm to say the word salah or siyam right now, where would you put it? Under which of these two words? Or is there a difference to begin with? Where would you put it? So siyam, you're going to fast. Helps no one at all but you. No one benefits from this. Actually, it just makes your mother extremely tired from cooking. But there's nothing else. No one benefits from the actual siyam. So where does that fall? Where do you put that? Under na'budu or nasta'in? Yeah. So the common understanding is that's a part of ibadah. But it's not really. No, it's a part of isti'anah. وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Right? وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Things that are extremely personal between you and God. Meaning the relationship boundaries. Meaning when you are talking to Him, you are speaking to Him, you are developing your understanding of Him, you are asking Him for things, you are worshipping Him, you're reading Qur'an for Him, you're praising Him. Anything that you're showing perseverance specifically for Him, you're being patient for things you wanted. Anything that is personal between you and God, that are ritual based, that is isti'anah. Why? Because it doesn't help anyone. What does isti'anah means? What does isti'anah mean? Isti'anah means you're seeking aid. You're asking for help. Okay. What does salah do? Okay, you stood today, when we're done this, you're going to go pray Dhuhr. So what happens when you pray Dhuhr? Who benefits when you pray Dhuhr? Who benefits? Think about it. Who benefits from praying Dhuhr? Allah? Obviously not, right? That's done. Okay, who else? No one else but you. No one else but you. This is the most selfish act that exists. Salah is the most selfish thing that's there. Siyam, even more selfish. Very selfish acts. Very, very selfish. Why? They don't help anyone but you. No one's benefiting from this. And that's why are you doing it? Because you're doing isti'anah. You're asking Him, I need help. I need clarity. I need guidance. I need peace of mind and heart. I need to see my way. I need to be able to know where I'm going. I need you. I need you. I know that I need you. That's why I'm standing here. Because I know it. Because I know it, I am here. Because I respect it, because I understand it, I acknowledge it. I know that without you I couldn't survive anyway, that my life would have no meaning whatsoever, so I need you. So nasta'een. All the acts that help you, isti'ana. What is na'bud then? Everything else. Everything else you do, when you go and you study and you get married and you have a life and you build and you leave a legacy and you help others, all the other acts of khair, all the other acts of stewardship, of istikhlaf, of khilafah on the planet that end up benefiting the community or benefiting the human race or benefiting the planet that you live on. Any act of worship like zakah, for example, is the symbolism of that in the Qur'an. Right? Zakah is always used as a symbol of the acts of worship that are ibadah, that actually help others, that leave a difference in other people's lives, that is not specifically geared towards your benefit exclusively, even though everything benefits you at the end, but it's not exclusive benefits. Na'budu is everything else. Very commonly as Muslims, we've misunderstood this, and we see ibadah as being the rituals that only help us, and then we say, well, all we have to do in life is ibadah, and we just did it, so we're good. So I'm off the hook. I'm done. I did my salah, I did my siyam, I did my hajj, I can pay my zakah if I have it. Those are the rituals, those are the ibadah, and I've done them, and why would I need to do something else? And we don't even think of the point of an asta'een. Like it's not even a part of our, when have you thought about that? When was the last time you asked yourself, am I doing isti'ana properly? Isn't that the fundamental word of Surat Al-Fatiha? Have you ever thought about it? You said it 17 times a day. You say this 17 times a day, you say, nasta'een. Show me, where are you doing nasta'een, please? Aren't you supposed to be, you're saying this to him. I'll give you the hadith at the end that will make things clear to you. But you're saying it every day. See, the first 3 ayat aren't really a claim that you're making. The first 3 ayat, you're stating the relationship. You're saying, in your name I do everything. All praise is due to you. And you are the caregiver, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful, and the owner and sovereign of everything that will happen on the day of judgment. These are facts that you're stating. This is the relationship you have. Here's a claim. There's a verb there. Show me a verb in the first ones. No verb here. No verbs. I told you there's something estimated here as a verb that you estimated. It's up to you. You may not want to estimate a verb. That's your problem. There's nothing there. It's just facts. Here there are 2 verbs. 2 present tense continuous verbs. Iyyaka na'budu. It's you and only you whom I worship. It's you and only you whom I seek aid from or ask for help. How are you asking for help? What are you doing in terms of asking for help? Is that a daily activity that you have? Is that something that you treasure and that you're aware and conscious of every day of your life? And if you say, oh, now I understand, it's salah and it's siyam and that's isti'ana. Okay, then what about ibadah? Where is your ibadah then? There are 2 things here. Qur'an does not repeat itself for nothing. It's not just repetitive. It's not just being repetitive. It's not just saying 2 words and they have the same meaning, so it doesn't matter. No, they're distinct concepts. Isti'ana is one thing. It's a very personal relationship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need to fast, you need to pray, you need to learn the Qur'an, you need to remember Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to do these things. This helps you, this makes you stronger, this makes you better, this brings you up, this develops you, strengthens your spirituality. What about ibadah? Which is the first thing there, because that's the job. It's not the opposite, it's not iyyaka nasta'een then wa iyyaka na'bud, meaning the sequence here matters as well. The job is na'bud, that's the job. The job is here's the earth, here's all the tools, here's an intellect that exceeds everything around you. Go ahead, do the job. Spread the khair. Make sure that you live healthy. You allow people around you to live healthy as well. Make sure that you take care of yourself, take care of those who can't care for themselves. Do that. That's the ibadah. As you do that, do isti'ana so you can actually get the job done. You can't get the job done without me. You won't be able to get the job done if you don't continuously seek aid from me and seek help from me. So do both. How do we seek aid from you, Ya Rab? We pray so you can do your job. But what happens if I understand prayer as the job? Then what? That's insane. It's like the training you're given by a company, you consider that to be the job itself, and you don't come the next day. Because I did the training. Yeah, but that's so you can do the job. Oh, there's a job? Wasn't that the job? Like I was coming for that? No, that wasn't the job. We're just making sure you know what you were supporting so you can do the job. Salah is that. Salah is that. It is it is what you get so that you can do the job. But it's not the job. It's not the job. Why? Because it does nothing. Because it helps no one. Because it shows. What is it doing? It just makes you stronger, more capable of being perseverant. It's more capable of you to strive to help and to improve the world that you live in. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Everything in the faith is encompassed in those 4 words. Well, as simple as that. Very, very simply. Everything falls under it. whatever you're doing, either it's an act of isti'ana or it's an act of ibadah. One of two things. Either you're seeking help so that you can do your job better, or you're actually doing the job. Do not confuse these two things. Don't mix up what the job is, what the duty is, what the purpose, what the muhimma, what the mission is, with what you're going to need in order for you to actually fulfill that mission and serve it properly. They're two different things. But in both cases, which is beautiful, you only turn to him. Meaning you only do the job for him, you only worship him, you only do it for him, and you only seek aid from him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Exclusively, there is a lot of ikhlas in it. It's only for you, it's only from you. I'm only doing it for you, and I'm only asking it from you. It's it's you, Ya Rab. It's always you. Even if you ask someone else, even if you come to someone, if you don't have knowledge, you come, can you please help me? Can you explain this to me? Can you help me out? Yeah, but in your heart, it's all from him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether this actually helps or not is his choice. Whether there's actually barakah in it or not is his call. You understand? It's all from you. I'm actually, Ya Rab, I'm asking you through your ibadah. There's a very known. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question about the order. So if prayers and fasting and those things that we do for ourselves are isti'ana and they're like the training that we do before we actually do our ibadah, then why is the order not the other?
Maybe the word training was a poor analogy. Maybe that's not exactly how it is. It's more of the fuel or what you need in order for you to maintain it. See, by nature or by default as human beings, we have the ability inside, we have khayr inside of us. The compassion is there. It's there. So you can do what you know what's right and wrong. You know what is helpful and what is not, and you're pulled and you gravitate towards doing good things. But without the proper understanding, without seeking aid from God, you're seeking aid not just spiritually, but from a knowledgeable point of view, from a perspective point of view, you can't hold on to that, meaning you will lose it slowly and then turn into something, you'll morph into something different. Meaning all children start out with a good heart, and when they see someone's crying, they feel bad about themselves. The compassion is there. But if that is not taken care of, if you do not nurture that, and that is not attached to a theology, a clear understanding of why that has to continue, then it will slowly go away. So yes, it is. It starts with ibadah first. Another reason for that to be the concept is that if it was in the opposite direction, you may understand that isti'ana is more important. It's higher on the priority level, and it is not. It is not. Fulfilling the purpose, doing the duty, actually getting the job done is the priority here. But you can't do it without that. If you can't, okay, which is more important, salah or wudu?
Salah.
Yeah, but can you do it without wudu? But you were told to do salah, right? I'll tell you to do salah and do wudu, because without that it's not going to work. So it's like again, the concept of Surat Al-Fatiha is the key, right? So you can't do something without something else. In order for you to be able to do ibadah, you have to do isti'ana. So we do both to you, subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this is what we're here for. This is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, right? We only created the human race and the jinn to do ibadah. And now when you send ibadah that way, things make more sense. It's not just about everything comes into a different picture now. Do na'bud, and then وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ is, this is what we need in order for us to actually get this done. Without it, you can't do it. Well, you can't. It's impossible. Without that proper relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without the understanding, without the aid, without the spirituality, you're going to fall short. It's not going to work. At a certain point, you're going to burn out, and then everything falls to pieces after that. But the point of it is that ibadah comes first. It always has and it always will. And Surat Al-Fatiha makes that clear. This is what we're here. So it's just two verbs. We are here to do two things. Na'bud wa nasta'een. Na'bud wa nasta'een. Why do we do na'bud? Because he told us to. Why do we nasta'een? So we can do na'bud. We do it now because that's what you wanted. We do nasta'een so that we can actually get it done. So that you'll accept it from us. Isn't that another point? What happens if he doesn't accept it? What happens if you do the ibadah but he doesn't accept any of it? Then what? Nasta'een is the way you make sure that it's accepted. You make sure that it's done within the boundaries, the criteria, and the expectations that he has, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you can do the job, you can do it and get it done on your own terms, but you won't be paid for it if it's not done the way the employers want you to do it. If the documentation they want isn't there, if the steps that they need you to take weren't there, then they're not going to pay you for it, even though you got the job done at the end. The same thing here, very simple. You want it to get done, well, this is what I want from you. This has to come with it. I need this whole thing, this whole package. But the first thing is na'bud. That's what he wants. And that is the worship part. So the first part was the theology. Second was the worship, the ibadah, the actual relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is that we're needed to do. And the final part is with the Fatiha.
Sheikh, what was the hadith that you were talking about?
Yeah, I'll come to that. Just finish the surah, inshallah, and I'll go back. Once we go back to that, after you understand it, and I tell you the hadith, or I'll give you like a few examples of what he said regarding with the Fatiha, it'll make much more sense to you, inshallah. You'll be able to put it all in perspective. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. So if the first 4 ayat were only nouns, just statements that were made, opinions you have about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding who He is. The 5th ayah was had 2 continuous verbs that you claimed. They're a claim. It's a claim. We are claiming that it's only you whom we worship, it's only you whom we seek from. That's a claim. Right? You don't know. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. All right, good. The second, the 2 ayat here are one sentence again. Starts with a command, but it's not really a command. It's called a dua, because you can't command someone who is higher than you, right? You can command someone lower, but you can't get someone. So if you use a commanding verb, talking to someone higher, then it's called dua, or it's called a request. In Arabic language, it's called fi'l amr al-dua, because you can't really command someone who's higher than you. That doesn't make sense. So ihdina, I think this is one of the least thought about or considered parts of Surat Al-Fatiha. In what sense? In the sense that when you're going to ask something from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, what was the choice going to be? Was it going to be you're going to ask for mercy? Was it going to be you're going to ask for forgiveness? What is it going to be? What are you going to ask for? Like, there's so many things to ask for, and there's need and necessity of everything. What is that one thing that you are going to ask for every day, continuously, to the day you die? It's always, you're going to die, keep on asking for it. Something that will never end. Okay? I'll give you an example. When it comes to forgiveness, is there an end for forgiveness? Think about it for a moment. Is there an end for forgiveness? Yeah, when all the sins are forgiven. When there's nothing left to be forgiven, are you going to ask for forgiveness still? No, everything is forgiven. There's no more nothing to forgive, like from a philosophical perspective. If everything is forgiven, then at that point, maybe you shouldn't be asking for forgiveness at that moment. Right? When it comes to mercy, is there a point when you don't ask for mercy anymore? Yeah, once you actually get it, when you get mercy. What's mercy? When you get the full package of mercy, when you enter Jannah. Right? When you're in Jannah, khalas, you've been given the full scope of His mercy subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rizq, you ask for provision. Yeah, there's a certain point where you've given everything. Khalas, you're not going to ask for rizq anymore. You've given everything that you ever wanted and ever will want, then that'll be the end of it. But is there a point where you stop asking for guidance? Are you understanding the idea here? Kind of constantly clear. There's no end to that. What he's telling us is there's really no end for the level of guidance you can obtain. There's always room for more guidance. You can always tweak your understandings. You can always fix up your theology a bit. You can always improve your practice. Your ibadah can always be a little better. Your isti'anah can always be a little better. Your aqidah can always be a little better. There's always room for extra guidance. At no point do you stop asking for guidance in this life. That's why this is a surah that is given to you in life. You're always asking for hidayah. This is a thing that subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to continue daily till the day we die. Always ask for. Always ask for more guidance, for more clarity. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. I think there's a lot of merit in the concept that the thing that we ask for all the time, because right now, aren't you guided? Aren't you a Muslim? Yes, you're a Muslim. You know what's right and wrong. You're praying. You're practicing Islam. Khalas, you have guidance. No, see that's the problem. You never have enough guidance. There's always more guidance for you to obtain. There's always more. You have a bit now. There's more for you to get later. And after you get that much later, there's more for you to get later. There's always more. There's always room for more guidance. And that is something that as Muslims we should never forget. No matter how guided you are, no matter how close you are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can always get closer. It's the concept that you can never actually get close enough to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can never be too close or on the sirat al-mustaqim. Isn't that what you're asking for? Guide us the straight path, al-sirat. And the word sirat is not just a line. It is a lifelong line. So al-sirat is a path that you will walk on. The word sirat is only used if you're walking on a path. Or else it's a khat. It's a line. Al-sirat means that you're going somewhere. You're moving. You're on the move. You're on the move. You're on something. It's called al-sirat now. Sirat al-mustaqim is the straight path of life that you're going to walk on. Guide us. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. what does mustaqim mean, really? I mean, when I think about it, what is the point? I mean, you can never walk a straight line, really. It doesn't make sense. Like, there's always going to be obstacles. You always have to go around them. Does that mean you're not on the Sirat al-Mustaqim anymore? If there's an obstacle, I go around it, or do I have to drill through every single mountain that I find? What is Mustaqim referring to? How do I deal with it? How do I use it? How do I benefit from the concept of Mustaqim? You see, the istiqama, what it's talking about, since Sirat is referring to the way that you live, then istiqama is what it really is the fact that you are someone who is ethically straight. You're a straight shooter when it comes to the ethics and the values and the morals that you have. You don't cheat, you don't lie, you don't bend rules, you're not that type of person. You're mustaqim. You just stay on the straight path, meaning that you'll never ever compromise your principles to get what you want or to achieve your goal or to serve your agenda. That's what istiqama actually means. That I'm someone, you'll always get the truth from me when you speak to me. That's what, if I'm mustaqim, that's what it means. I'll always tell you the truth. I'll always level with you. I'll never lie. I'll never betray. I'll never, breach the trust. I'll never. That's what mustaqim means. It has nothing to do with, because we always think about the closest point between two places is a straight line. All right, that's nice, but that's not really it's not a mathematical equation here. What it's talking about is an ethical thing. Ihdina, guide us, Ya Rabb, to the straight path. The path where we don't compromise anything that you don't want us to compromise. The path where our ethics are impeccable, where where we're outstanding in our morals. Ihdina, yes.
I've heard before that this verse is in reference to an actual path that we would be walking on the Day of Judgment.
All right. So the concept of sirat, so I'll quickly just kind of brush over this. This is something that is differed among scholars a lot. There's a lot of difference of opinion regarding the concept of sirat, what will happen on Yawm al-Qiyamah. What I can tell you in the Sirat Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to be something that is a khayt or a habl or a line that will be on top of Jahannam that you will go over in order to make it to Jannah. And it doesn't exist, I guess, clearly or with certainty in the Qur'an, but there are hadith that talk about it. And the scholars differ in defining, understanding it, and actually dealing with it. What I can tell, and that is a different topic. But here, al-sirat here doesn't mean that at all. I mean, this is not referring to that. This is referring to our lives and the paths that we choose in our lives. But it just happens to be that is called sirat. Now, what they on the Day of Judgment, but what they make an analogy or a simile. They say that the straight, if you walk a straight path in this life, then you will walk the straight path on that, and you'll make it to Jannah quicker. And the more you fall off the path here, the more you'll fall off the path on. And then they say that it's similar. We don't know for sure, and there's not. There's a lot of a difference. It's a matter of controversy. However, Sirat al-Mustaqim here is just relating to the fact that this is how we live. This is the way that we live our lives. Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, guide us to the straight path of the life that we live, so that we are people who are ethically not compromising and we are morally outstanding. Is there a definition for it? Because that the surah could end right there and the concept would have been clear. Because the second ayah, the ayah after it, the final ayah, is actually the same meaning. It's just a continuation. Explanation, what's Sirat al-Mustaqim? Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, what is that? Sirata, the pathway or the path, الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, of the ones whom you have blessed. أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, the ones that you have blessed. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, not the ones who have angered you, وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ, or the ones who have gone astray. All right? So there's a definition of the path, just in case the question would come up. Yeah, there's a definition. This is the path. The path is the path of those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed with what? صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. I'm just giving you things to think about. Blessed with what? أنعمت عليهم. What have you blessed them with, Ya Rabbi? Everything probably. Or maybe it's guidance, because that's what we asked for in the first place. Our question is guidance. So give us the path, or allow us to walk the straight path of those who you blessed with guidance. Right? غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, not to walk the path of those who brought upon themselves your anger or your wrath. Because of, maghdub is the one who knew it was wrong and did it anyway. That is ghadab. I mean, this is someone who has brought on themselves anger because they were told, don't do that, and they did it. A lot of scholars tell you, maghdub are Yahud and Balin al Nasara. I don't think that it's just an opinion, but that's not really how we're supposed to look at it. Actual wordings here are way more important. Al-Maghdub is someone who knew that this was the wrong thing and they did it anyway. Al-Dallin are the ones who got lost. There's two ways for you not to end up walking the Sirat al-Mustaqim. There's two things that could happen to you. Either you're put in a situation where you know this is the wrong choice. You know that this money is not halal. And you know that this action is not proper, but you do it anyway. That is maghdub. Now you've done something that will cause ghadab. You have to repent and you have to find your way back to the straight path again. Al-Dallin, you get lost. You get into an environment, in a situation where it's just not clear anymore. Or you stop focusing, or you're indifferent. Or you're ghafil, meaning someone you don't care too much. And you're not someone bad, but you don't know where you are, you don't know where you stand. Which is 95% of populations. They just don't care. It's not something that they're not interested in. Allah, Islam, Muhammad, Deen, Qur'an, these words, just words that they don't really, that just kind of sit the back of their heads, that bothers them, or they don't really want to talk about it, they're not interested in the conversation, they don't want to converse about it, it's not their thing. It's not their thing. You have a lot of friends like that. Good people, funny people. They act nicely, they're kind and everything. They just don't care. You're talking about the deen, not their interest whatsoever. Dallin, they've gone astray. They've lost their way. They don't know what to do. Is it okay to be that? No, there's certain trying to say, no, don't be any of these. There's three ways. Either the Sirat al-Mustaqim, or someone who goes away from it on purpose, or someone who just gets lost. For different reasons. Whether it's ghafla, indifference, whether it's oblivions, whether it's just, confusion of life and environment. Just getting caught up with work and other priorities that aren't that high up, and you just end up, you ask yourself 10 years later, what have I done? How am I now? How am I here? What have I been doing for the last 10 years? SubhanAllah, how time ran by, and I can't remember the last time I actually prayed properly, or read Qur'an, or thought about God altogether. Well, Dallin is a big problem. That's why there's like 6 counts in the mid. Right? That's why Allah goes in there, Ameen at the end of it, right? Because that's the biggest problem that we have. Even if you're reading, the word Dallin comes in the Qur'an a few other times. And the biggest problem as a Imam of Taraweeh is make sure you don't stop at the end of that. It's the biggest problem. If you stop at the end of that, وَاغْفِرْ لِأَبِي إِنَّهُ كَانَ مِنَ الضَّالِّينَ. People, Ameen. It's in the middle of Surah Al-Shu'ara. Like it's not even Fatiha. But they heard the Dallin, they say Ameen. And it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a reflex in us. You hear the word Dallin, no, Ameen. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. I want to stay focused. I want to know. And it's funny. The reason that people say Dallin in the middle of Surah Al-Shu'ara is because they're not focused. Yeah. So I guess the hypocrisy of the whole thing is kind of interesting. Now, what is the... I'm going to give you a number of themes to think about. Here, I'm going to go through three things. Surah Al-Fatiha encompasses in it all the basics of the deen. Right? It talks about the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Alhamdulillahi and the word An'amta alayhim. It talks about the concept of ikhlas, of believing in the oneness of Allah, and the word Iyyaka na'bud, and after that Iyyaka nasta'in. It talks about suhba salihah. It talks about good companionship. Because it doesn't say Iyyaka a'bud, or Iyyaka asta'in, or ihdi ni as-sirata. No, it says Iyyaka na'bud in the plural us, nasta'in the plural us, and ihdina, guide us. You're not speaking alone anymore. It is so personal, you would think that it would be a singular narrative. It's not. It's a plural one. It's a plural one. Why? Because there's a concept of jama'ah and the concept of good companionship. It talks about bad companionship. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. Not to be with those who have done either of these things, whether they have angered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or gone astray. It has within it the beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We counted 5 of them. We counted Allah and Al-Rabb and Al-Rahman and Al-Rahim and Malik, all in the first 5 verses or 4 verses of the surah. It has within it the essence of the relationship that you have with God subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is Al-Rahman and Al-Rahim, and it came twice in a surah that only has 7 ayat in it to begin with. It has the concept of istiqamah, of being someone who walks a straight path in life, someone who is not does not weasel around things, someone who does not cheat, does not compromise their ethics or their morals. It has within it the concept of al-akhirah. It talks about Yawm al-Din. It talks about the day of judgment. That on its own is a big thing that we didn't go into too much detail with. But Yawm al-Din, talking about the concept of being held accountable, of accountability, of everything that you do right now is recorded, and then you're going to be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah, is the biggest theme that we have in the Deen. Without that, none of the equations of faith actually stand. If you take out the concept of Yawm al-Qiyamah, nothing is worth doing. Can you convince me to be a good person without Yawm al-Qiyamah? I bet you cannot. You cannot. If I specifically and especially if I am living a very, very bad life. If I don't have anything, if I'm very underprivileged and everyone around me seems to have everything, but I don't, and no one's helping me out, why would I sit around and just wait for things? Why would I play it fair and straight all the time? It's only one life. I'm not going to live again. No one's going to ask me about anything. You're going to tell me, well, people will say bad things after you when you die. I don't care. I'm dead. They can do whatever they want. They can crucify me as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't make a difference. I'm dead. I'm not here anymore. I don't longer exist. How are you going to convince someone without Yawm ad-Din? Yawm ad-Din is the secret ingredient in the equation of belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has the importance of dua. Surat Al-Fatiha, in its essence, is just a big dua. But it's a dua where you start off properly. You start by explaining to him what you believe in him, explaining to him what you're doing for him, and then asking him what you want so you can continue to do what you're doing. This is what Surat Al-Fatiha is. You tell him who he is to you, what you are doing, and what you need to continue to do what you're doing. It's just a dua, and it's the perfect form of one. It talks about the importance of guidance. That at the end, the ultimate goal for us is to guide ourselves, and the ultimate goal for everyone is to get guidance. It's guidance. What you're looking for is guidance. That's the ultimate goal. That is the ultimate achievement, is guidance. Nothing else really matters. If you are guided, then everything that is taken away from you is not going to be a problem to you. And if you're given everything but guidance, then nothing else works. If you're giving everything and then deprived of guidance, then it's not worth it. The concept of isti'ana, that has within it tawakkul. It has within it all the personal relationships between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and has the concept of unity. The unity of the jama'ah, and doing the job itself. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Hadith Qudusi says this. He said, يقول الله قسمت الصلاة بيني وبين عبدي. I have divided prayer between me and my servant, between myself and my servant. And he said prayer, but what he was talking to was Surat Al-Fatiha. Because Surat Al-Fatiha, like I said, is the rukn that if you only say that, then nothing else really, you don't really have to say anything else. قسمت الصلاة بيني وبين عبدي. فإذا قال عبدي الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم. Whenever my servant says, all praise is due to Allah, the caregiver of all worlds, يقول الرب, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer him and say, حمدني عبدي. My servant has praised me. فإذا قال العبد الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. Because the entirely merciful, the especially merciful, and the owner of the day of judgment. يقول الرب مجدني عبدي. You will say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, my servant has magnified me or exalted me. فإذا قال العبد إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. And when the servant says, it is you and only you whom I worship and you and only you whom I seek aid and help from. يقول الرب هذا بيني وبين عبدي. This is between me and my servant. This is a claim that you make. That's what you say? You say that it's me and only me? No one else? You're not worshiping anyone else? You're not seeking aid from anyone else? I'm the only one that you care for, that you're looking towards serving? Alright, that's a claim. We'll see. We'll see about that. You have 60, 70 years. Prove it, and we should be good, inshallah. But this is a claim. It's just a claim. You're making a claim. You know what? When you think about it like that, it puts things. That's a claim. La ilaha illallah. It is a claim. It's the most pure and magnificent words that were ever put together in a sentence. There's no haqq that is stronger or clearer or purer than them, but they're a claim. They're not a VIP card. Right? It's not something that's going to give you access to places you didn't get before. It's just a claim. You're going to help you. You said La ilaha illallah? Yes, I did. All right, let's see. Let's see if your record actually proves it. Let's see if we can find إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ within the record that we have here. And if we can, then good for you. And if not, it was just a claim you made. We have a name for those who make claims and don't do things. Is there not a name for those who claim to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala but don't? Yeah, the Qur'an gives them a name. It's called nifaq. And there's a lot of different degrees of it. But إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ is a claim. It's something you say it. Basically he's saying, yeah, that's what you say. فإذا قال العبد اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. And when the abd goes ahead and says, oh Allah, guide us to the straightest path, the path of those whom you have blessed with guidance, not the path of those who have angered you or gone astray. يقول الرب هذا لعبدي. This is for my servant. This is what I owe him from this salah. وَلِعَبْدِي مَا سَأَلْ. And I will give him what he has asked. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz radiallahu anhu was known when he read Surah Al-Fatiha to pause at these specific endings. So he would say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. He would stop. Then he would continue, Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. He would stop. Then he would say, Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'een. He would stop. So some of the people stand after him saying, "What are you forgetting? Surah Al-Fatiha, Amir al-Mu'mineen?" قال لا. And then he narrated this hadith to them. قال إني أنتظر رد ربي. He said, I would say them and then I would imagine the answer of my Lord. So I put myself in that kind of in that situation. Say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and then imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking back to you at this point, saying, yes, you praised me. Good. So this is the relationship we have. Rahman ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Okay, you've exalted me. You would believe in that as well. Iyaka na'budu wa Iyaka nasta'een. Okay. That's your claim. That's between you and I. I'll give you enough time, inshallah, to prove that. Ihdina as-sirata. You get that. You want that? You want the guidance? You truly want the guidance? Then you will get the guidance. And that is, I guess, that's exactly 1:30. I have like a million things to talk about, but khalas. that should be enough, inshallah. What should we take at the end of all of this? Again, this is like it's an hour and a half, so really would take a year if you would break this down word for word and go into the details of it. Surah Al-Fatiha, there's the number of books that have been written just the exegesis of Surah Al-Fatiha, going into the details of every concept that it carries within it, and then taking those concepts, because there are fundamental Islamic principles that are in the surah that need to be looked into much more deep. But what I want it to do for you is I want you to be able to relate to it when you're praying. The point, or the way I presented it today for you. I want you to be able to relate to it when you're praying. When you're doing salah, think about a couple of the stuff that we talked about. Think about the fact that when you're reading the first 4 ayat, you are basically explaining to him, reassuring him that this is what you believe regarding him. This is your belief that he's a Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki. And then that you are telling him that it's only you. Doesn't it feel shameful? Every day, 17 times, you tell him, it's you and only you, we worship, it's you and only you, we seek aid from, we're doing the job, and then if you're not, it's ridiculous because you're saying it 17 times a day. If you weren't doing it, then saying it 17 times a day should have at least helped you out in starting to do it. It should have kind of jump-started the action of it, because you're saying it every time, and every time you say it, that's between us. If you do that, then you're going to get a lot for it, and if not, and then you ask for guidance every single day at the end of it. Why? Because that's the way of life. As a Muslim, we're continuously seeking guidance. At no point do we have enough guidance. At no point do we say we're saturated with the amount of guidance that we have in us. There's always room for more guidance. And what is that guidance based on? Is it individual guidance? Is it only me? Or am I part of a bigger group that I belong to? What type of group do I belong to? Who are they? Are they those, what is it? Are they the richer people? No, they're the ones who are blessed with guidance by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, staying as far away as I can from those who have gone astray by mistake, by indifference, by oblivion, by loss, or those who have gone astray by choice. Either one of them, I stay as far away. And you say, I mean at the end. Like you're making a dua basically. A dua that explains to yourself, and explains to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what this deal is. Every surah of the Qur'an is understood under this fundamental surah, under this print. This is the umbrella that all the surahs of the Qur'an come to serve it. They come to serve as Sab' al-Mathani. That's it. They're here to serve these 7 exceptional verses. And every time we read a surah, there's a representation of Surah Al-Fatiha at the beginning. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Go on. Remind yourself of the first one and what that was talking about. I hope, inshallah, that made sense. I think the time is up. If there are any questions, I'll happily take a question or two. If not, then we'll just go and pray Dhuhr. Are we good? Probably good.
A couple of questions just on the reading. Like Malik Yawmiddin, you said it can be read Malik or Madik.
Yeah.
Is it one word with 2 readings,
Yep.
or 2 alternative words?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, is it that the readings differ in terms of whether the word differs, or whether it's one word that can be read in 2 ways?
I still don't understand what the difference is.
Is it 2 words or 1?
And so the word Malik and Malik are similar in meaning, right? But there's a difference. So it could be said Malik and it could be said Malik. So there's a qira'ah that comes from the Prophet where he said Maliki Yawmiddin, and there's a qira'ah that comes from the Prophet that comes Maliki Yawmiddin. Now to understand that in more detail, you'd have to study a bit of the qira'at, understanding where the qira'at originated from and what level of difference exists within the qira'at themselves and how that all works. It's a bit more complicated. That's why I choose sometimes not to go into that. That would need like a different setting in terms of explaining how the qira'at kind of come from, and because there are different ways for the words to differ from each other. Like for a word to be recited, it's not a systematic way, meaning not every word that has malik in it or malik can be read in the opposite way. It's just based on narration. It's based on narration, meaning the Prophet ﷺ had read it in these different ways. And I gave example at the beginning of the session. I read it for you guys in the different ways that it can be read. And it's just based on what the Sahaba and the followers of the Sahaba narrated from the Prophet ﷺ in terms of how he read the surahs. He read the surahs in different ways. He read them in ayat in different forms and matters. Does that make sense in general?
Yeah, it does, because that was the follow-up question.
Okay.
Was can you read any word in multiple manners if there are multiple?
It's all recitation. It's all sanad.
Yeah.
It's all sanad. It's all chains of narration. Yes.
And then the other question was the double med in Dad Main.
Yeah.
How do you recognize the double med from the single med?
So there are 4 or 5 different types of med. When you see the cowboy hat that's on top of the alif there in Dhalin, whenever you see that, it's either a 4 count or a 6 count. Whenever you see a letter after it that has a shadda on it, it's definitely a 6 count. Right? Whenever you see a shadda on the letter after, that's definitely going to be a 6 count. But that's not the only times where there's a 6 count. There's other times, other places as well. So this is a systematic way of knowing that one because it's actually rules that it follows. But that's just give you like a little way to kind of help you. If you see a med, then after the letter that has a shadda on it, go 6 immediately, and that should kind of help out. That make sense? Okay. Anything else? Okay. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. صلى الله عليه وسلم محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين.